It's told me the other day, you've got international travelers, you've got drive-to destinations, you've got fly-to destinations, so we kind of cover it all across the board. I am definitely a drive-to destination with the traditional family that comes every year. So my stuff's a little more immune to that. We may have to do some price differentials to make sure we get them booked, but as long as as long as there's Americans, we're going to have demand for vacation rentals.
Yeah. Interesting. So, Travis, you're in multiple locations. Is that a lot harder? Because I know Tim's is very all in-house team. Yours is more like, hey, I got to go build the team here. I got to build the team here. I got to build the team here. So how's that?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely more difficult the more markets you're in the sense of having to build the team boots on the ground and not being there. And also that team not being in-house. That team is a third-party vendor, really, supplier of cleaning services, handyman services, things of that nature. So I think it's definitely more difficult in the sense of the more markets that you spread out into. And if you're not large enough in those markets to be able to do exactly what Tim does, where you can have everything in-house, it makes it more challenging. But also on the flip side of that, what I would say is once you get your A team, once you get great cleaners, once you get great handymen on site, or at whatever the area is, it makes it very streamlined to be able to add additional properties in that market. So I think it is difficult early on, but once you find the right people, from handymen and cleaners most specifically, they're the most important people. But once you find great cleaners in the market, then it makes everything a lot easier. And scaling in that market becomes fairly straightforward because you have good boots on the ground.
Travis, don't you have to really work those relationships to make sure they answer your calls first?
Yeah, absolutely. It is interesting being in the hospitality industry and being on the side of the owner or acting as the owner, even if the property's not necessarily yours. Working those relationships. And what I say, the biggest thing, and it depends on who you're talking about, but the biggest thing is cleaners. You want to, as much as you can, you want to be screening the guests properly so they're not walking into a disaster every single time they're coming to your property. Because the more that happens, the more likely they are to potentially fire you and be like, hey, we don't want to deal with this anymore and don't want to deal with the level of guests that you're bringing into your properties. So it's important to make sure that, one, you, as well as you can, you try to eliminate the possibility of bad guests being at your property to where they aren't treating it well and your cleaners are walking into a nightmare. And then you also, I think it's extremely important to make sure you immediately pay your cleaners whenever you get an invoice. Different cleaners operate different ways, but the less that a cleaner has to worry or follow up with you or things like that, and the more you can make it super easy for them to be able to handle your properties, the better you're going to set yourself up to keep those people and build those relationships.
We have a podcast, myself and Sarah Bradford, called Sarah and T, Professional Vacation Managers Podcast, and we have things called pull-over moments. That was one right there. If you guys are just halfway listening, rewind it about 45 seconds and listen to what Travis just said, because that is so key. They give you a bill on Wednesday, you pay it on Friday.
Yeah.
And that's how you build that loyalty in the market. And Tyler, I know you and I are in an area where we just had a cold snap about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Plumbers are walking around like, rappers right now. With the gold chains, the rings, and whatever. It's like, if you call a plumber, I may be able to look at those broken pipes in 6 weeks. And when I come, I'm charging $300 an hour, right? And so getting those guys to go when you need them to go, that's how you do it, folks.
So okay, let's say you're going to a new market or you're trying to hire someone. So what key questions or how can you go about finding the right people? Because that is if you're looking to invest in a certain market, you need to build your team because you live and die by your team. How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, I would say the first thing that I recommend doing and what I've done is tapped into my network to see if any other individuals have really good boots on the ground that they're willing to share contacts for. So that's always the first thing that I'm going to try to tap into. The majority of people will be open as long as their teams, cleaners, handymen have the ability to take on new properties. They will be open to sharing those contacts. The second way is honestly trial by fire with doing your screening, going through your process. I have a list of questions for cleaners anytime I go into a new market. If I don't have somebody that already operates there that I trust, that will give me their boots on the ground team that they trust, then I have my screening process for my cleaners of the questions that I ask them through trial and error, to try and get the best cleaner, to try and get the best handyman. Typically, what I see anytime I go into a new market, what I've experienced is I'll go through at least one cleaner. That's just going to happen. You may not get the best cleaner if it's not somebody that was recommended from somebody that already operates and has multiple rentals in that market. But I usually find that the screening process is kind of like screening guests. Like you're going to try to set yourself up for success, but you may not get the best cleaner on the first go around. So it's just something that you will get, and Tim knows this, you will get feedback from the guests if the cleaning isn't what it should be. So you will get that feedback fairly.
That's true.
So at the end of the day, what I usually use as kind of a rule of thumb is if I'm not getting feedback from guests on cleanliness, then the cleaner's doing a good job. But the second I get feedback, I just pass that feedback along to my cleaner. I don't point fingers. I just say, hey, here's some feedback from the previous guest. Not a big deal, but just wanted to let you know, because you don't want to piss somebody off. You don't want to piss your cleaners off. They're the most important person on your team. But if that continues to happen, then that's when I start looking and exploring for new options.
What about finding good people, Tim? Because I know like hiring right now, even in house, is a disaster. So like, how do you find good people to bring on your team?
I think, first of all, we've already called this the TTT podcast with all of the teams on here, but it is quickly morphing into a theme on this podcast. That is good people. If you don't surround yourself with good people, you're not going to go very far, whether it's out of house, contractor type, or in house. And we could do a whole hour on this, but we have a culture here that we really defend and look for those key traits. And just as Travis was talking about his list of questions, we have a whole interview process. By the time somebody comes to work for me full time year round, they've been through 7 rounds of interviews.
Oh wow!
Through our 8th person who the first. Interview is always on the phone, and they don't even realize they're being interviewed, because if you can't do good phone, you can't work for me.
Yeah.
You have to be able to communicate, sound strong and knowledgeable on the phone, whatever your job is. And then we have some personality tests we use. I shouldn't say test. My HR person always says it's an assessment. It's not a test. Well, it's a test, but what kind of personality you're dealing with. Is this person going to fit? And then it comes to, they come in, we have what we call play day, where they come in and we pay them to just hang out and see if they fit in with people they're going to work with. And, we've made some mistakes, don't get me wrong, but you can't emphasize this stuff enough. You hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah. I heard, so I've been reading the book, I actually read the book like twice, this Traction. They said your team needs to like believe in your core values. So what is each and one of y'all's company's team values, and how do you hire based on that? I think Tim's saying you can go first, Travis.
I'm a little bit different in the sense of my team is really all third party kind of people that I hire out for cleaning and handyman. So it's a little bit different and unique. But as far as core values, there's a couple different things that I think really stood out for me when I first started at Walmart. The first one is always striving for excellence, no matter what you do. The second is the customer's always number one. So this is kind of a Walmart tenet that we always had, where customer is always number one. And then the next is treating everybody with respect. No matter who it is, I don't care if you're the CEO of a company. I don't care if you're the person that is going in and cleaning. I don't care if you're a Karen guest that is a pain in the ass to deal with. I'm always going to treat everybody with respect, no matter who it is. So those are kind of some of the core tenets that I really think about. Even though I don't necessarily have people that that work for me, similar to like how Tim is set up and has a large team with all the properties that they're managing. But those are the kind of the core tenets that I have in the back of my mind.
That's great. I wrote those down. The listener wrote them down too. That's good. We have 3 values, and they come up very quickly in the interview process, and we have a variety of questions we ask to try to get to the bottom of it. Number 1 is integrity. You got to do the right thing, and I guess that goes back to the customers. Number 1, I would say my staff. Number 1, I want to make them so happy and so thrilled to work here that they're going to give great service all the time. So, certainly integrity is number 1. Professionalism, which I think also fits in the core value. We can talk about excellence, being professionalism. That's somebody else has to say that about you. That's the other thing you say about professionalism. You can't go around and go, I'm very professional. Look at me. You've got to walk the talk. And then our third core value is a little off, but it's while we're here, and that's profitability. Excuse me. The idea is I want to make more money next year than I made this year.
Yeah.
And everybody that's working with us makes the same. So we run our company as an open management company. There's a great book out there called The Great Game of Business by Jack Stack. Is the fellow's name. I encourage everybody to take a look at that. And when we started running our company as an open book management company, our profitability soared, and our happiness soared, and our growth soared. And basically, not to make this the longest answer in the world, but the open book management concept is that we have a budget. We have quarterly goals about how profitable we're going to be. And if we make those goals, every employee gets a cut of their profits. And we have weekly meetings, and we put the numbers right up on the board. This is what we were supposed to make. This is what we did make. This is what we were supposed to spend. This is what we have spent. And every single person has to buy into it, whether it's the maintenance guy not going to Ace Hardware 4 times a day, and making sure his truck is stocked properly, or buying gas at the place that has gas 5 cents less a gallon. Those are critical to success. And we just obviously finished the fourth quarter, and all of them got a big check because we made our goal at the end of the year. And so that's key as well. Money does motivate.
Yeah. Actually, so how I actually found out about Tim, I actually went to see a short-term rental one time in the Outer Banks, and I met one of his agents, and one of his agents actually spoke very highly of you too. So that says a lot. And most agents don't really talk that highly about their brokerages either. So that says a lot. So, but I guess to kind of shift everything a little bit, I know now everything's changing so much with technology and software.